Sisters separated for 40 years reunite under desperate circumstances, the revelation that shook both families. Hello, welcome, leave a like, subscribe, activate notifications, and enjoy this story. The cold winter wind howled through the empty streets as Anna stepped out of her car, her breath visible in the icy air. This was just another day, another case for the city's top defense attorney. But today, something felt different, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. As she walked into the dimly lit room of the detention center, she was met by a pair of eyes that seemed strangely familiar, yet filled with a lifetime of pain. Anna's heart skipped a beat. Who was this woman, and why did she feel like she should know her? In a city where justice is a currency and truth is often buried beneath layers of lies, Anna is about to face the most challenging case of her career. But this time, it's not just about winning or losing. It's about something far more personal, something that will unravel the very fabric of her carefully constructed life. What she's about to discover will shake her to her core, forcing her to confront a past she never knew existed and a bond that has been lost for decades. This is a story of secrets, sacrifice, and the powerful ties of family that even time cannot break. As the clock ticks down and the stakes become higher than ever, one question remains. Will Anna find the strength to uncover the truth before it's too late? Prepare yourself for a journey that will test the limits of love, loyalty, and redemption. This is not just another case. This is the moment that will change everything. On a frosty January morning in New York City, the streets buzzed with the usual rush hour chaos. Amidst the sea of bundled-up commuters, Anna Blackwell stood out in her crisp, tailored suit and determined stride. At 45, she was the picture of success, a top-tier lawyer known for her razor-sharp mind and ice-cold demeanor in the courtroom. As Anna navigated the crowded sidewalks, a nagging feeling tugged at the corners of her mind. It was her birthday, but instead of celebration, a sense of emptiness gnawed at her. Fragments of a long-forgotten memory danced just out of reach, a child's laughter, the scent of freshly baked cookies, and a warm embrace she couldn't quite place. Shaking off the unsettling thoughts, Anna steeled herself for the day ahead. Her phone buzzed with a message from her assistant. New pro bono case assigned. Homeless woman charged with first-degree murder. File on your desk. Anna sighed, her perfectly manicured hand tightening around her coffee cup. Pro bono cases were a necessary evil in her line of work, but they always left a bitter taste in her mouth. Still, she was nothing if not professional. As she strode into the imposing courthouse, Anna felt a strange shiver run down her spine. Something about today felt different. She couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change irrevocably. The holding cells beneath the courthouse were a stark contrast to the polished marble above. Anna wrinkled her nose at the smell of desperation and unwashed bodies as she was led to a small interview room. Her new client sat hunched in a metal chair, matted gray hair obscuring her face. Miss Sarah Doe? Anna's voice was clipped and efficient. I'm Anna Blackwell, your court-appointed attorney. The woman's head snapped up, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Sarah's eyes, a startling shade of blue, locked onto Anna's face with an intensity that made the lawyer take an involuntary step back. It's you, Sarah whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. After all these years, Anna felt her carefully constructed world tilt on its axis. Those eyes, she knew those eyes. They haunted her dreams, always just out of reach. A rush of conflicting emotions threatened to overwhelm her usually impeccable composure. I'm sorry. Do we know each other? Anna managed to stammer, her professional mask slipping for the first time in years. Sarah's gaze never wavered. You don't remember, do you? Oh, Annie. What did they do to you? The use of that long-forgotten nickname hit Anna like a physical blow. Images flashed through her mind. A shared bedroom, whispered secrets, pinky promises made in the dark, and always those eyes, filled with love and protection. This is impossible, Anna whispered, her legs suddenly unsteady. She gripped the back of a chair for support. You can't be, Sarah. The older woman nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. "Happy birthday, little sister. I've been looking for you for so long." The world seemed to spin around Anna as decades of carefully constructed walls came crashing down. Memories she had long suppressed bubbled to the surface. The day the social workers came, the screams as they were torn apart, Sarah's desperate promises to find her again. "No," Anna said, her voice rising with panic. "No, this isn't happening. You're lying. This is some kind of trick." Sarah reached out a trembling hand, her fingers brushing Anna's cheek. "Remember the lullaby, Annie? The one Mom used to sing?" And then, in a voice roughened by years on the streets, Sarah began to softly sing. "Hush now, my darling. Don't you cry. I'll be here to watch the stars go by. Though the world may change and time may fly, my love for you will never die." Anna felt her knees give way as the floodgates of memory burst open. She sank to the floor, sobs racking her body as 40 years of repressed grief and longing poured out of her. Sarah slid from her chair, wrapping her arms around her long-lost sister. For a moment, they were children again, huddled together against the darkness of the world. "I never stopped looking for you," Sarah murmured, stroking Anna's hair. "Even when everyone told me to give up hope." As Anna's sobs subsided, reality began to reassert itself. She pulled away, staring at the woman before her with new eyes. Her sister a stranger, a murderer, a ghost from a past she had tried so hard to forget. "Why now?" Anna asked, her voice hoarse. "After all this time, why did you?" She couldn't bring herself to finish the question. Sarah's face darkened. "I didn't kill anyone, Annie, but the truth is so much worse than you can imagine. There are people who will do anything to keep our past buried." A chill ran down Anna's spine. "What are you talking about?" Before Sarah could answer, the door burst open. Two stern-faced guards stood in the doorway. "Time's up, counselor," one of them barked. "The defendant needs to be processed for arraignment." As they moved to pull Sarah away, she gripped Anna's hand tightly. "Find the music box," she whispered urgently. "It's the key to everything. Don't trust anyone, not even." The guards yanked Sarah to her feet, cutting off her words. As they dragged her from the room, she called out one last time. "Remember who you are, Annie. Remember Rosewood." The door slammed shut, leaving Anna alone with her shattered world. She stared at her reflection in the grimy mirror, seeing for the first time the echo of Sarah's eyes in her own face. In the span of 15 minutes, everything Anna thought she knew about herself had been turned upside down. Her perfectly ordered life lay in ruins around her, and a single name echoed in her mind: Rosewood. As she stumbled out of the interview room, Anna knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered, and no matter the cost, she would find it. The game was on, and the stakes were higher than Anna could have ever imagined. Anna Blackwell's normally pristine apartment was in disarray. Papers were strewn across every surface, and her laptop hummed with activity as multiple browser tabs fought for space. It had been 3 days since her world-shattering encounter with Sarah, and Anna had barely slept, consumed by the need to uncover the truth about her past. The clock on her microwave blinked 3:17 a.m. as Anna poured herself another cup of coffee, her hands shaking slightly. She stared at the corkboard she'd hastily mounted on her living room wall, covered in a web of red string connecting newspaper clippings, adoption records, and blurry photographs. "This doesn't make any sense," she muttered, running a hand through her disheveled hair. The more she dug, the more questions arose. How had she ended up adopted by the wealthy Blackwell family while Sarah languished in the foster care system? And what was the significance of Rosewood? A quick internet search had revealed dozens of towns named Rosewood across the United States, but none seemed to hold the key she was looking for. Anna's fingers hovered over her phone, tempted to call her adoptive parents and demand answers. But something held her back, a nagging fear that they might be involved in whatever conspiracy Sarah had hinted at. Frustrated, Anna turned back to the stack of public records she'd managed to obtain. Her eyes widened as she came across a birth certificate she'd somehow missed before. It listed her birthplace as a small private hospital in upstate New York, a facility that had been shut down over 3 decades ago under mysterious circumstances. "Bingo," Anna whispered, her heart racing. She quickly pulled up a map on her laptop, searching for the hospital's location. As the results loaded, she felt her breath catch in her throat. The hospital had been located in a tiny, unincorporated community called Rosewood Grove. Memories began to surface, fragmented images of a sprawling Victorian house, the scent of pine trees, and the sound of a babbling brook. Anna closed her eyes, trying to hold onto the fleeting recollections, but they slipped away like wisps of smoke. A sudden knock at the door made Anna jump, nearly spilling her coffee. She glanced at the clock, 3:45 a.m. Who could possibly be here at this hour? Cautiously, she approached the door, peering through the peephole. Her heart skipped a beat as she recognized the man standing in the hallway, James Thornton, her boss at the law firm and one of the most influential attorneys in New York City. Anna hesitated, her hand on the doorknob. Something about this felt wrong. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door, plastering on a smile she didn't feel. "James, what are you doing here so late?" The older man's usually jovial face was drawn and serious. "May I come in, Anna? We need to talk." Reluctantly, Anna stepped aside, acutely aware of the incriminating evidence scattered throughout her apartment. As James entered, his eyes darted around the room, taking in the chaos. "I see you've been busy," he said, his tone unreadable. Anna's instincts screamed danger. She edged towards her desk, where her cell phone lay just out of reach. "What's this about, James?" He sighed heavily, running a hand over his face. "I received a rather disturbing call from Judge Hawthorne this evening. He seems to think you might be compromised in your handling of the Sarah Doe case." Anna's blood ran cold. "Compromised? I don't understand." James fixed her with a piercing stare. "Don't play dumb, Anna. It doesn't suit you. We know about your connection to the defendant." For a moment, Anna considered denying everything. But as she looked into James's eyes, she saw something that made her pause, a flicker of genuine concern, mixed with, was that fear? "How long have you known?" she asked quietly. "Longer than you have," James replied, his shoulders sagging. "Anna, you need to drop this case, for your own safety and Sarah's." Anna's mind raced. If James knew about her connection to Sarah, what else did he know? And more importantly, whose side was he really on? "I can't do that, James," she said, straightening her spine. "Sarah is innocent, and I intend to prove it." A look of resignation passed over James's face. "I was afraid you'd say that." He reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper. "I didn't want it to come to this, but you leave me no choice." As he handed her the document, Anna felt her world tilt once again. It was a court order, signed by Judge Hawthorne himself, removing her from Sarah's case effective immediately. "This is illegal," Anna sputtered, her hands shaking with rage. "You can't do this." James's expression was a mixture of pity and determination. "It's already done. I'm sorry, Anna. I truly am. But trust me when I say this is for your own good." As he turned to leave, Anna called out, desperation coloring her voice. "Wait, at least tell me why. What really happened in Rosewood?" James froze, his hand on the doorknob. For a moment, Anna thought he might actually answer. But then he shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "Some secrets are better left buried, Anna, for everyone's sake." With that, he was gone, leaving Anna alone with her shattered case and more questions than ever. As the door clicked shut, Anna sank to the floor, her mind reeling. She'd known uncovering the truth would be difficult, but she hadn't expected to face opposition from her own colleagues. The realization that the conspiracy surrounding her past reached into the highest levels of the justice system left her feeling small and powerless. But as her eyes fell on a faded photograph of 2 little girls, sisters, laughing in front of a Christmas tree, Anna felt a surge of determination. She may have lost her official standing on the case, but she was far from defeated. Pulling herself to her feet, Anna grabbed her laptop and began to type furiously. If the system wouldn't help her find justice for Sarah, She'd have to go outside the system. It was time to call in some favors and dig deeper than ever before. As the first rays of dawn began to peek through her window, Anna made a solemn vow. No matter the cost, no matter the danger, she would uncover the truth about Rosewood and clear Sarah's name. The journey ahead would be treacherous, but for the first time in her life, Anna Blackwell was ready to fight for something bigger than herself. Little did she know, the revelations waiting for her would shake the foundations of everything she thought she knew about family, justice, and the lengths people will go to protect their darkest secrets. The sterile walls of the DNA testing facility seemed to close in on Anna as she paced the small waiting room. It had been a week since her confrontation with James, and she'd barely slept, driven by an obsessive need to confirm what her heart already knew. Ms. Blackwell, a lab technician emerged, holding a manila envelope. Your results are ready. With trembling hands, Anna tore open the envelope. Her eyes scanned the document, a mix of scientific jargon and percentages, until they landed on the conclusion. 99.9% probability of full sibling match. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Anna sank into a nearby chair, her mind reeling. It was true. All of it. Sarah was her sister. As she stumbled out of the facility into the bright New York afternoon, Anna felt as though she was seeing the city through new eyes. Every face on the street became a potential connection to her past. Every building a possible hiding place for long-buried secrets. Her phone buzzed insistently. It was a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Riverside Park. 1 hour. Come alone. Anna's heart raced. Sarah had been released on bail yesterday, against the vehement protests of the prosecution. This was her chance to finally get some answers. An hour later, Anna found herself on a secluded park bench overlooking the Hudson River. A figure in a worn hoodie approached cautiously, looking over her shoulder before sitting down. You came, Sarah said softly, pushing back her hood to reveal her prematurely aged face. I wasn't sure you would. Anna swallowed hard, fighting back tears. I had to know the truth. About us, about Rosewood, about everything. Sarah's blue eyes, so like Anna's own, filled with a mixture of pain and determination. It's a long and ugly story, Annie. Are you sure you're ready to hear it? Anna nodded, steeling herself. I need to know. Sarah took a deep breath. We were born in Rosewood Grove, a small community upstate. But it wasn't just any town. It was an experiment. An experiment? Anna echoed, confused. A social experiment, funded by some of the richest and most powerful people in the country. They wanted to see if they could create the perfect society by controlling every aspect of a child's upbringing. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean, controlling? Sarah's voice grew bitter. They separated twins at birth, raising one in luxury and the other in poverty. They manipulated our environments, our education, even our relationships, all to see how nature versus nurture would play out. Memories began to surface in Anna's mind. Snippets of conversations overheard, strange tests disguised as games. Oh my God, she whispered. How could they do that to children? Power corrupts, Sarah said simply, and they had unlimited power over us. But something went wrong. Some of the kids started asking questions, piecing things together. And then, Sarah's voice trailed off, her eyes growing distant. Anna reached out, grasping her sister's hand. What happened? There was a fire, Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. A big one. Half the town burned down. Lots of kids died. They told us it was an accident, but I never believed it. I think they were trying to cover their tracks. Anna felt sick to her stomach. And that's when we were separated? Sarah nodded. In the chaos, I lost track of you. By the time I found out you'd been adopted by the Blackwells, it was too late. They'd erased all records of our connection. Tears streamed down Anna's face as the full weight of their shared tragedy hit her. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I had no idea. Sarah squeezed her hand. It's not your fault, Annie. We were both victims. But now we have a chance to make it right. Anna wiped her eyes, a spark of determination igniting within her. The murder you're accused of, it's connected to all of this, isn't it? Sarah nodded grimly. The man I supposedly killed? He was one of the original architects of the Rosewood experiment. I tracked him down, hoping to get answers, maybe even evidence. But someone got to him first. And framed you for it? Anna finished, the pieces falling into place. Exactly. Whoever's behind this, they're powerful and desperate to keep the truth buried. But I think I know where we can find proof. Anna leaned in closer. Where? The old Rosewood site. Most of it burned down, but there was a hidden bunker beneath the main house. If any records survived, they'd be there. Anna's mind raced with the implications. If they could find concrete evidence of the experiment, it would not only exonerate Sarah but expose a decades-long conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of society. It's dangerous, Sarah warned. These people have already killed to keep their secret. They won't hesitate to do it again. Anna met her sister's gaze, seeing in it a reflection of her own determination. I don't care. We've lost too much time already. I want to help make this right. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I've waited so long to hear you say that. As the sisters embraced, the weight of 40 years of separation finally lifting, Anna felt a sense of purpose she'd never known before. The road ahead would be fraught with danger, but for the first time in her life, she wasn't alone. So, Anna said, a hint of her old confidence returning. When do we leave for Rosewood? Sarah smiled, a glimmer of hope shining through years of hardship. How about now? As they stood to leave, neither sister noticed the figure watching them from the shadows. A phone pressed to his ear. Sir, they're on the move, heading to Rosewood. Should we intercept? A pause. Then a cold voice replied, No, let them go. Rosewood has ways of dealing with those who dig too deep. Prepare the site. It's time to tie up some loose ends. The figure clicked off the phone, melting back into the crowd as Anna and Sarah walked away, blissfully unaware of the storm that lay ahead. The truth about Rosewood was finally within reach, but at what cost? The rental car bumped along the overgrown dirt road, tall pines looming on either side. Anna gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white. Beside her, Sarah sat in tense silence, her eyes scanning the dense forest. It's just ahead, Sarah murmured, pointing to a break in the trees. Rosewood Grove. As they emerged from the woods, Anna felt her breath catch in her throat. Before them lay the ruins of what must have once been an idyllic small town. Charred foundations peeked through years of undergrowth, and the skeletal remains of a church steeple reached toward the sky like an accusing finger. My God, Anna whispered. It's like a ghost town. Sarah's face was grim. Welcome home, little sister. They parked the car on the outskirts and proceeded on foot, picking their way carefully through the overgrown streets. Anna felt a chill run down her spine as fragmented memories began to surface. The sound of children's laughter, the smell of fresh-baked bread, the feeling of Sarah's hand in hers as they ran through these very streets. The main house should be just ahead, Sarah said, her voice tight with emotion. That's where the bunker entrance was. As they rounded a corner, both women stopped short. Where the grand Victorian house should have stood was nothing but a gaping hole in the earth, surrounded by fresh tire tracks and construction equipment. No, Sarah breathed, her face pale. No, no, no. Anna's mind raced. Someone got here before us. But how did they know? Before Sarah could respond, a twig snapped behind them. They whirled around to find themselves face to face with James Thornton, Anna's former boss, flanked by two burly men in dark suits. I'm afraid I can't let you go any further, ladies, James said, his voice heavy with regret. You've already stirred up far too much trouble as it is. Anna instinctively stepped in front of Sarah, her voice cold. What are you doing here, James? He sighed, looking suddenly old and tired. Cleaning up a mess that should have stayed buried. I tried to warn you, Anna. I really did. You're one of them, Sarah spat. You've been part of this sick experiment all along. James nodded slowly. Not just part of it. I helped create it. Your separation was my idea, actually. A perfect case study in nature versus nurture. Anna felt as though she'd been punched in the gut. How could you? We were children. We were trying to build a better world, James insisted, a hint of the old fervor in his eyes. Think of what we could have achieved if things hadn't gone so terribly wrong. Wrong. Sarah's voice shook with rage. You destroyed lives. You tore families apart. James's face hardened. And now I'm here to make sure it stays buried. I'm sorry, but I can't let you leave here with what you know. The two men beside him reached into their jackets, and Anna saw the glint of metal. Her heart raced as she realized they were out of options. But just as she was about to make a desperate move, a new voice rang out. That's far enough, James. From the trees emerged a familiar figure, Judge Hawthorne, the man who had signed the order removing Anna from Sarah's case. But now he held a gun trained steadily on James. Robert. James looked genuinely shocked. What are you doing? The judge's face was grim. What I should have done years ago, putting an end to this madness. As James and his men turned to face this new threat, Anna saw their chance. She grabbed Sarah's hand and whispered urgently, "Run!" The sisters took off through the ruins, the sound of shouting and a single gunshot echoing behind them. They dove into the underbrush, crawling through thorns and fallen branches until they reached a small clearing. Gasping for breath, Anna turned to Sarah. What now? Sarah's eyes were wild with a mixture of fear and determination. The old camp is not far from here. If there's any evidence left, that's where it'll be. As they set off once more into the deepening twilight, Anna's mind reeled. Everything she thought she knew about her life, her career, the very foundations of justice, it had all been built on lies. But as she looked at Sarah, she felt a fierce protectiveness surge through her. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Little did they know, the true revelations of Rosewood, and the lengths some would go to keep them hidden, were yet to come. As night fell over the abandoned town, secrets long buried began to stir, and the final confrontation loomed on the horizon. The truth about Rosewood was within reach, but the price of uncovering it might be higher than either sister was prepared to pay. The old summer camp loomed before them, a collection of dilapidated cabins surrounding a weed-choked clearing. Anna and Sarah crouched at the edge of the woods, their hearts pounding in unison. There, Sarah whispered, pointing to a cabin set slightly apart from the others. That was the counselor's quarters. If there's anything left, it'll be in there. They crept forward, every snapping twig sounding like a gunshot in the eerie silence. As they neared the cabin, Anna froze. A faint glow emanated from inside. Someone was already there. We can't turn back now, Sarah said, her jaw set with determination. It's now or never. Anna nodded, steeling herself. They approached the door, which hung crookedly on rusted hinges. With a shared look of resolve, they burst inside. The scene that greeted them was surreal. Judge Hawthorne stood over a battered file cabinet, rifling through papers by the light of a lantern. He looked up, startled, his gun wavering between the sisters. I should have known you'd find your way here, he said, his voice weary. Put the gun down, Robert, Anna said, trying to keep her voice steady. It's over. The judge laughed bitterly. Over? It's never over. Do you have any idea what's in these files? The lives that would be ruined if this got out. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes blazing. What about our lives? The lives of all the children you experimented on. Hawthorne's face softened slightly. We thought we were doing the right thing, creating a better future, but it all went so horribly wrong. The fire, Anna said quietly. It wasn't an accident, was it? The judge shook his head. Some of the older children had started to figure things out. They were going to expose everything. We panicked. Sarah gasped, tears streaming down her face. You murdered them. Our friends, our families. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Hawthorne insisted, his composure cracking. We just wanted to destroy the evidence. But the fire spread so quickly. Anna felt sick to her stomach. And now, what were you planning to do with those files? The judge held up a lighter. Finish what we started. Bury the past once and for all. No! Sarah lunged forward, but Hawthorne raised his gun. Stay back. I won't let you ruin everything we've worked for. Time seemed to slow down as Anna watched the scene unfold. Her sister, desperate for justice. The judge, trapped by his own guilt and fear. And between them, the truth about their past and the key to Sarah's freedom. In that moment, Anna knew she had to make a choice. She could let Hawthorne destroy the evidence, protecting her career and the powerful people involved in the experiment. Or she could risk everything to expose the truth and clear Sarah's name. The weight of her entire life, her success, her reputation, everything she'd worked for hung in the balance. But as she looked at Sarah, she saw not just her long-lost sister, but a reflection of the person she could have been, the person she wanted to be. Enough, Anna said, her voice ringing with newfound strength. She stepped between Sarah and the judge. This ends now. Hawthorne's eyes widened. Anna, think about what you're doing. Your whole career. My career was built on lies. Anna interrupted. It's time for the truth to come out. All of it. With a swift motion, she grabbed the files from the startled judge's hands. Sarah quickly snatched up the lantern, leaving Hawthorne in darkness. You can't do this, he shouted, waving his gun wildly. Do you have any idea who's involved? They'll destroy you. Anna stood tall, feeling truly like herself for the first time in years. Let them try. As they backed out of the cabin, Sarah whispered, What now? Anna's mind raced. She knew that exposing the truth would come at a tremendous cost. She'd lose her job, her reputation, possibly even face legal consequences herself. But looking at her sister, she knew it was worth it. Now, Anna said, a determined smile spreading across her face. We go to the press. All of it, the experiment, the cover-up, everything. It's time the world knew the truth about Rosewood. Sarah's eyes filled with tears of relief and gratitude. Thank you, she whispered, squeezing Anna's hand. As they made their way back through the dark woods, the weight of the files heavy in Anna's arms, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in her life, she was on the right path. Back in the cabin, Judge Hawthorne sank to his knees, the gun clattering to the floor beside him. He pulled out his phone with trembling hands and dialed a number he'd hoped never to use. It's Hawthorne, he said, his voice hollow. It's over. They know everything. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, a cold voice replied, Understood. Initiate Protocol Omega. Leave no trace. As the judge ended the call, he looked around the dark cabin one last time. In the distance, he could hear the faint wail of sirens approaching. The truth about Rosewood was finally coming to light, and nothing would ever be the same again. The New York Times newsroom buzzed with frantic energy. Phones rang incessantly, and reporters huddled in tense clusters, their voices a low murmur of disbelief and excitement. At the center of it all stood Anna and Sarah, surrounded by a team of editors and fact-checkers poring over the Rosewood files. This is unprecedented, the editor-in-chief, Marcus, said, shaking his head in awe. The scope of this conspiracy, the people involved, it's going to shake the foundations of our society. Anna nodded grimly. That's why we came to you. The truth needs to come out, no matter the cost. As they worked through the night, piecing together the horrifying details of the Rosewood experiment, Anna felt a mix of emotions washing over her. Relief at finally uncovering the truth, guilt for her unwitting role in the cover-up, and a gnawing fear of what would happen when the story broke. Just before dawn, Marcus approached the sisters, his face grave. It's ready. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Once we publish, there's no going back. Sarah gripped Anna's hand tightly. We're sure. With a nod, Marcus hit the button to publish the exposé online and send it to print. The headline blazed across the screen. Rosewood Scandal. Decades-long human experiment exposed. As the sun rose over New York City, the story spread like wildfire. News alerts pinged on phones across the country. Social media exploded with outrage and disbelief, and TV news anchors struggled to keep up with the rapidly unfolding scandal. Anna and Sarah watched from a secluded conference room as their world turned upside down. The names of powerful politicians, business leaders, and legal figures scrolled across the bottom of the TV screen, all implicated in the Rosewood conspiracy. Suddenly, the door burst open. James Thornton stormed in, his face ashen. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he sputtered. Anna stood, facing her former mentor with steely resolve. "We've done what you should have done years ago, James. We've told the truth." Before James could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face draining of color. It's the Attorney General. They're convening a special grand jury. They want us all to testify." As James sank into a chair, the full weight of what was happening seemed to hit him. "It's really over, isn't it?" Sarah nodded, her voice steady. "It's been over for a long time, James. You just didn't want to see it." The next few hours passed in a blur. Federal agents arrived to take statements and secure evidence. Lawyers for various implicated parties tried desperately to get ahead of the story. And through it all, Anna and Sarah stood together, a united front against the storm. As the day wore on, more survivors of the Rosewood experiment began to come forward. Heart-wrenching stories of separation, manipulation, and loss poured in from across the country. Anna felt overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the pain caused by the experiment. Late that evening, as they sat in the conference room watching the continuing coverage, Sarah turned to Anna, her eyes brimming with tears. "I never thought I'd see this day," she said softly. "For so long, I thought I was alone in this fight, that no one would ever believe me." Anna pulled her sister into a tight embrace. "You're not alone anymore. We'll face whatever comes next together." Just then, Marcus burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. "You're not going to believe this. We just got a call from the White House. The president wants to address the nation about Rosewood, and she wants you both there." Anna and Sarah exchanged stunned looks. This was it, the final vindication of their struggle, a chance to bring healing to all those affected by Rosewood. As they prepared to leave for Washington, Anna's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Her blood ran cold as she read it. "You may have won this battle, but the war isn't over. Rosewood was just the beginning. Watch your backs." Anna quickly showed the message to Sarah, whose face hardened with determination. "Let them come," Sarah said firmly. "We've spent our whole lives in the shadows of their lies. It's time to step into the light." As they walked out of the newsroom, flanked by security and swarmed by reporters, Anna felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The truth about Rosewood was finally out, but it was clear that this was just the beginning of a much larger fight. Looking at Sarah, Anna saw the same resolve mirrored in her sister's eyes. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The long-buried secrets of Rosewood had torn them apart, but now, those same truths had brought them back together, stronger and more determined than ever. As they stepped into the waiting car, ready to face a nation hungry for answers, Anna knew that their journey was far from over. But for the first time in her life, she felt truly free. The truth, with all its pain and complexity, had finally set them both free. The harsh glare of camera flashes greeted Anna and Sarah as they stepped out of the black SUV onto the White House lawn. The air was thick with tension and the buzz of reporters shouting questions. Anna, once so at home in the spotlight, felt her stomach churn with anxiety. Sarah squeezed her hand reassuringly. "We've got this, sis." As they made their way into the Oval Office, Anna couldn't help but marvel at the surreal turn her life had taken. Just weeks ago, she had been a respected attorney at the top of her game. Now, she was about to meet the president as a whistleblower who had exposed one of the biggest scandals in American history. The president, a formidable woman in her 60s, rose to greet them. Her face was a mask of carefully controlled emotion. "Ms. Blackwell, Ms. Doe," she said, her voice steady. "I want to thank you both for your courage in bringing this atrocity to light." What followed was an intense hour-long discussion about the Rosewood experiment, its far-reaching implications, and the steps needed to bring justice to its victims. As they talked, Anna could see the weight of responsibility settling on the president's shoulders. "We'll be addressing the nation in an hour," the president said finally. "I'd like you both to be there. The American people need to see the human face of this tragedy." As they prepared for the press conference, Anna's phone buzzed incessantly with messages from former colleagues, friends, and even family members she hadn't spoken to in years. Some were supportive, others accusatory. The life she had known was crumbling around her. Sarah noticed her distress. "Having second thoughts?" Anna shook her head. "No, it's just overwhelming. Everything's changing so fast." "Change can be good," Sarah said softly. "It's how we grow." The press conference was a blur of flashing cameras and shouted questions. Anna and Sarah stood stoically behind the president as she addressed the nation, promising a full investigation and justice for the victims of Rosewood. As they left the White House, exhausted but relieved, Anna's phone rang. It was Marcus from the Times. "Anna, you need to see this," he said, his voice urgent. "Turn on any news channel." They rushed to a nearby cafe with a TV. Breaking news banners flashed across the screen. "Major arrests in Rosewood scandal." Images of James Thornton, Judge Hawthorne, and other powerful figures being led away in handcuffs filled the screen. Anna felt a mix of vindication and sadness watching her former mentors fall from grace. "It's really happening," Sarah whispered, tears in her eyes. "They're finally facing justice." But their relief was short-lived. As they left the cafe, Anna noticed a black car following them. Her instincts, honed by years in the courtroom, screamed danger. "Sarah," she said quietly, "don't look back, but I think we're being followed." Sarah's body tensed. "What do we do?" "Just keep walking. There's a police station 2 blocks from here." They quickened their pace, hearts pounding. Just as they thought they might make it, 2 men in dark suits stepped out from an alley, blocking their path. "Ladies," one of them said, his voice cold, "we need you to come with us." Anna's mind raced, searching for a way out. Suddenly, a commotion erupted behind them. They turned to see a group of reporters who had recognized them from the press conference, cameras at the ready. The men hesitated, clearly not wanting to make a scene. Anna seized the moment. "Help!" she shouted. "These men are trying to kidnap us." The reporters surged forward, and in the chaos, Anna and Sarah managed to slip away, running full tilt towards the police station. Safe inside, they gave statements to the bewildered officers. As they waited for a security detail to arrive, Anna's phone rang again. It was an unlisted number. "This isn't over," a distorted voice said. "Rosewood was just the tip of the iceberg. You have no idea what you're up against." The line went dead. Anna and Sarah exchanged grim looks, the weight of their new reality settling in. "What have we gotten ourselves into?" Anna whispered. Sarah took her hand. "Whatever it is, we're in it together now." As they left the police station under heavy guard, Anna realized that exposing the truth about Rosewood had come at a steep price. Her career was in shambles, her safety was in jeopardy, and she had made powerful enemies. But looking at Sarah, seeing the strength and determination in her sister's eyes, Anna knew she had made the right choice. They had lost so much time, but now they had a chance to make things right, and not just for themselves, but for all the victims of Rosewood. The road ahead would be difficult and dangerous, but for the first time in her life, Anna felt truly alive. With Sarah by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they drove away into an uncertain future, Anna allowed herself a small smile. The truth about Rosewood had nearly destroyed them, but it had also given them something precious, each other. And together, they were stronger than any conspiracy. The small office buzzed with activity as Anna Blackwell pored over a stack of legal documents. The sign on the door read Blackwell and Doe, Advocates for Justice. It wasn't the prestigious corner office she once occupied, but to Anna, it meant so much more. Sarah burst through the door, her face flushed with excitement. "We got it. The class action lawsuit against the Rosewood conspirators has been approved. It's going to trial." Anna's face broke into a wide smile as she hugged her sister tightly. It had been a long, hard year, But moments like these made it all worthwhile. The aftermath of the Rosewood revelation had been chaotic. Anna's legal career had indeed been shattered, her reputation in tatters. She'd been disbarred for her unknowing role in the cover-up, despite her eventual whistleblowing. Sarah's murder charges had been dropped, but the sisters found themselves at the center of a media firestorm. Yet from the ashes of their old lives, something beautiful had emerged. Together, they had founded a small nonprofit law firm dedicated to helping victims of systemic injustice. It wasn't glamorous work, and the pay was a far cry from Anna's former salary, but it filled a void in both their hearts they hadn't even known existed. As they celebrated their latest victory, Anna's phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus at the New York Times. "Turn on the news. Now." They rushed to the small TV in the corner of the office. Breaking news banners flashed across the screen. Rosewood conspirators sentenced. Justice prevails. Images of James Thornton, Judge Hawthorne, and others being led away in handcuffs filled the screen. The anchor's voice was solemn. In a landmark decision, the federal court has handed down severe sentences to those involved in the Rosewood experiment. This marks a turning point in one of the most shocking scandals in recent American history. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I never thought I'd see this day," she whispered. Anna squeezed her hand. "We did it, sis. We really did it." As the news continued, detailing the reparations to be paid to Rosewood survivors and their families, Anna felt a wave of emotions wash over her. Pride in what they'd accomplished, sadness for the lives forever altered by Rosewood, and a deep, abiding love for the sister she'd found against all odds. Later that evening, as they sat on the roof of their modest apartment building sharing a bottle of wine, Sarah turned to Anna with a serious expression. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly. "Giving up your old life? You lost so much because of me." Anna looked out over the city lights, considering the question. She thought of her former wealth and status, the respect she'd commanded in courtrooms and boardrooms alike. Then she looked at Sarah, her sister, her partner in this new life they'd built together. "Not for a second," Anna said firmly. "What I had before, it was built on lies. This life, it's real. It's messy and hard sometimes, but it's ours. We're making a difference, Sarah. That's worth more than any corner office or designer suit." Sarah's eyes welled up with tears. "I don't know what I did to deserve a sister like you." Anna pulled her into a tight hug. "We deserved each other all along. It just took us a while to find our way back." As they sat there, watching the stars come out over the city, Anna reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. The pain, the sacrifices, the constant danger they still faced from those who wanted Rosewood's secrets to stay buried. But looking at Sarah, seeing the peace and purpose in her sister's eyes, Anna knew it had all been worth it. They had paid a high price for redemption, but they had found something priceless along the way, each other. The road ahead was still uncertain. There were more battles to fight, more truths to uncover. But whatever came next, Anna knew they would face it together. The Rosewood experiment had tried to tear them apart, but in the end, it had only made their bond stronger. As the city hummed below them, full of stories yet to be told and injustices yet to be righted, Anna raised her glass in a quiet toast. "To the truth," she said softly. Sarah clinked her glass against Anna's. "To family," she added. And in that moment, under the vast expanse of the night sky, two sisters who had once been lost to each other felt truly, completely found. Thank you very much for listening to this story. Comment below what you thought of the ending and from which city you're listening to us. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, click on the next story that's appearing on your screen now. Leave your like and subscribe to our channel so we can build a huge community that shares inspiring stories together. See you soon.